Welcome to this introduction to working with children and young people with selective mutism. If you are worried about a child or young person who sometimes doesn't speak in certain situations, we hope that this information will give you an idea of why this may be happening and what you can do to help. We will give some strategies for you to try at the end, and we recommend that you have a go at these for at least 3 months before making a referral to the Speech and Language Therapy Service. Please do share this presentation and the resources with all key adults involved with your child. This will help everyone to support your child in developing their confidence in talking. We will be covering the following information: introduction and overview of selective mutism, how it feels to have selective mutism, information on how to help and where you can find further information and resources. This link will take you to our Trust website, where you can click on a 48-minute video. You can either watch this in one go or at your leisure. The video explores the experiences of 3 families whose children all have selective mutism. There is 7-year-old Red, whose granddad has never heard a single word from his only granddaughter. Megan, who is 10 years old, she feels cut off from the rest of her school class by her fear of speaking. And Danielle, aged 15, who is making good progress in taking small steps to overcome her selective mutism.
Hopefully you have just watched the video and gained some insight into how it feels for some of these children and young people who find it hard to talk in some situations. Selective mutism is a term used when children who are able to talk comfortably to some people, usually family members and close friends, are silent or unable to talk freely when people are present. Often the problem is not apparent until the child goes to playgroup, nursery or school, when they are meeting unfamiliar people for the first time without having their trusted adult with them. Selective mutism used to be known as elective mutism, but it is now understood that the child's mutism is not a choice. It is considered to be a phobia, which is an irrational fear of speaking and of having their voice overheard by unfamiliar people. This causes extreme anxiety, which we will cover in more depth later. Everyone sometimes finds themselves in a situation where they are not wanting to speak, nervous to talk, but when thinking about is it selective mutism, the key thing to remember and look out for is it a consistent pattern of non-talking, not just a one-off situation? And is it lasting more than 2 months in one setting? Most children are reluctant to talk in new situations until they find their feet, but this usually only lasts for a few weeks. If it continues more than 2 months, then steps need to be taken. This is not normal shyness. It is an anxiety disorder where children have developed a phobia of talking to or being overheard by anyone outside their limited comfort zone, e.g. family members and close friends. The fear of being overheard may be so strong that they may be unable to speak even to you as their parent if they think someone else may be listening. Their panic reaction is so extreme and frightening that they either freeze and become unable to speak or do all they can to avoid the need to talk. This then leads to the cycle of anxiety shown here. The child or young person is spoken to by an unfamiliar person. They get an extreme feeling of anxiety, for example, a tummy ache, a headache, or flight or fight response. They may freeze when spoken to. They then attempt to avoid the eye contact and remove themselves from the situation that's causing them this anxiety, and they become unable to speak. The way that children with selective mutism deal with anxiety is no different to how adults deal with common anxieties. Think of a time when you have felt anxious and see if you recognise these reactions and following behaviours. Children with selective mutism experience extreme anxiety when talking and may freeze, having a blank facial expression. This frozen face may look challenging or confrontational, but we must not read too much into a blank expression. Some children develop a fixed smile which helps ward off too many questions. This is a fight-flight response and it blocks rational thinking. It is important that we don't read too much into that blank facial expression. It is a common symptom of anxiety. They will often not know how to cope with these extreme feelings that they are experiencing. Their lack of coping strategies will leave them with a sense of helplessness and a desire to avoid all communication. They cannot explain or understand what is happening to them. Don't take the child's non-talking personally. They are controlling their anxiety, not you. Their anxieties may go beyond speaking alone. These children may be conscious of doing anything in front of others. For example, PE may be conscious of any body movements and being judged or laughed at. We need to let the children know that there is no need to worry or they will be on edge all day. As we know, the requirement to talk can happen at any time. So we can start to provide them with coping strategies which will help them to reduce some of the anxiety if we let them know. When it's your turn, you can point to a picture. Or, for now, I won't ask you a question unless you put your hand up. Then immediately they know they are not going to be put on the spot and they can relax, hopefully enough to enjoy the lesson and be able to listen rather than be worrying.
People often ask what causes selective mutism. There isn't one answer. There are different factors that contribute to it. We all have different personalities. For example, some people would describe themselves as being a perfectionist. They like rules to follow so they can feel they've got it right. There is a scale ranging from being a bit of a worrier to being a complete perfectionist. So some children might like to get things right, be reluctant to take risks, or they might need reassurance or be hypervigilant. You can all probably relate to these, either for yourself or other people you know. Children and young people with these personality types are more susceptible to selective mutism. We can't do anything about this. Life events or triggers. Stuff happens. These are things that are not disasters, like starting school, but they can trigger overgeneralization, which causes you to link a horrible feeling to something in your environment. This sets in a cycle of dread and avoidance. Overgeneralization happens more in childhood as children don't have a rational brain. The trigger is particularly worse if it happens when a child is separated from their parents, as their anchor is removed. An example of this trigger in the previous video was when Megan was on holiday and started to talk to the wrong lady in the sea, thinking it was her mum. Overgeneralization can happen when children start school or nursery, as they are often stressed and anxious. These feelings can be transferred to a person or situation related to talking, and therefore wrongly attach the feelings of anxiety to talking. The brain mislearns that talking is tricky rather than the situation. We can't do anything about this. The maintaining factors we can change. This is the area that needs to be the focus of input and support. These are the only factors that we can alter. We will be looking at what could be possible maintaining factors and how we can reduce them by replacing them with supportive strategies. The maintaining factors are what can strengthen the fear of talking without us realising that they exist. It's really important we look at the maintaining factors, as this is where we can change what we do to help. On this slide there is a link to the Smira website handout on maintaining factors, which we would recommend you look at, as it will give detailed information of factors at home and at school. However, it is also important to say that you shouldn't feel bad if you find you have been doing any or all of them. We all try strategies to help a child or young person with the best intentions, but sometimes this can cause pressure, which can lead to the cycle shown on the next slides. If we are able to recognise selective mutism early and address the maintaining factors, then that can be enough to help children overcome their fear of talking. Selective mutism is maintained when talking is a negative experience. Expectation to talk is linked to an unreasonable pressure, anxiety, disapproval, or failure. Fear of talking is strengthened through avoidance. Avoidance brings instant relief from anxiety, which reinforces the belief that there was indeed something to fear. Avoidance is a positive experience. It is more rewarding than participation. Avoidance may include the use of alternative forms of communication, such as gesture, whisper, writing, modified voice. If these are accepted in the long term, they can become safe habits that arouse no anxiety. Little or no experience of managing anxiety around talking can lead to the belief that nothing can be done, and they accept a non-talking role.
We all have a fear about something, and when having to face that fear, it causes us anxiety. We have established that selective mutism is an extreme fear of talking, a phobia, which leads the child into a heightened state of anxiety and into the avoidance cycle previously mentioned. Avoidance strengthens the fear. Let's think about how we normally deal with a phobia, whether it is ours or a child's. If you are scared of spiders, it will not be helpful to have someone say, "Oh, go on, just touch it, it'll be fine." Or, "Are you going to touch a spider today? I'll get you an ice cream if you touch the spider." When you encounter a spider, you will either freeze, look to the person next to you for help, or just run. You probably won't deliberately seek out likely spider places, such as under plant pots or in the shed. The relief you feel for not having to deal with a spider confirms that spiders are awful. For some people, even the thought of a spider being somewhere near is enough to make them avoid that place. If people help you avoid rather than support you to face your fear, you will continue to be scared. So imagine if you are scared of speaking, you are forced to confront your phobia every day. It is a likely occurrence whenever you come across another person. So what will help? Graded exposure and reassurance. Acknowledge that someone finds something scary. Being told you are silly to be scared doesn't make you feel better. Don't be daft, it's only a spider. Don't be silly, you can talk. Being told, "Go on, just touch the spider for me," "Go on, just talk to me," won't help. But being acknowledged and supported. "I know you find spiders difficult to deal with, so don't worry. If we come across one in the shed, let me know and I'll remove it. I know you find talking to people tricky, but don't worry. If a person in the shop asks you a question, you can nod or shake your head until you are comfortable and I will talk to them."
We aim to reduce the maintaining factors by creating an anxiety-free environment. It is essential to implement support strategies to create an anxiety-free environment as soon as selective mutism is suspected. This may occur in nursery or school, or with family members or friends. We need a 24/7 approach and must make sure that everyone is aware of what selective mutism is and how to reduce the anxiety. We could do this by educating others when the child or young person is not present, so that everyone can understand what selective mutism is and the best approach to help the child or young person to overcome it. We need to find a middle ground where we create opportunities to speak while not pressurising the child or young person. There is still an expectation that they will speak when comfortable, but in the meantime they can participate in other ways. There are lots of things they can do to join in. We can provide these opportunities by avoiding direct questions, not using gentle persuasion, bribes or punishments, as these all amount to pressure. We can suggest alternative, natural forms of communication until the child is ready to speak. This could be gesture or use of body language. We need to maintain an expectation to communicate, albeit non-verbally, and convey that it will be no surprise when the child or young person starts to talk. We need to make sure we don't draw attention to the child or young person if they do speak. We just need to carry on as normal as possible with the conversation. It's important to talk openly and positively about the child or young person's fear of talking. Acknowledge the fear. For younger children, it is enough to just let them know you have noticed they find talking hard. For older children, we can support them and understand the fear is real, but the threat is imaginary. Phobias can be overcome. We can help the child or young person to face the fear using small steps and desensitisation strategies. This could include using communication cards or a whiteboard to write down what they want to say or ask, use puppets or masks in play or drama, group noise making, for example singing, chanting, clapping, animal noises, whole class or group answering or reading in unison with an adult or another child or young person, voice recordings such as talking cards, talking tins, voice messages or voicemail. Use commentary style talk so the adult does all the talking. No direct questions. Instead, you can give instructions, make chatty comments, use rhetorical questions that need no answer. Use pauses to allow space for the child or young person to comment if they are able to. The handout helping children to cope with anxiety and do's and don'ts at pre-primary and secondary school can help with ideas to develop this further. The link for these handouts is on the next slide. We need to remember to do things with rather than for the child or young person to make it easier and gradually fade support. We also need to ensure we prepare for any transition by educating staff in the new setting before the child or young person starts. We can do this by familiarising the child or young person with the setting in advance. Introduce the child or young person to key staff in advance. Where appropriate, previous staff who have built a positive relationship with the child or young person could visit them in the new setting to assist them in the settling in period. Make sure the support is reviewed frequently, for example, after 4 to 6 weeks. The Smira website is a really useful website and organisation which offers support to families, young people and professionals. We have highlighted some of the information that is on the website, however you may wish to look at the other resources and information that is available.
So hopefully you now have an understanding of what selective mutism is and how it can affect the child and the people around them. The next step is to try some very simple strategies that can make a big difference. We are going to outline 7 key strategies for you and all adults interacting with your child to try out. It is very easy for people to stop talking to the quiet child as they think it might be putting pressure on them and they won't respond anyway. This will reinforce the non-speaking child to talk even less as there is no expectation for them to join in. So when the child arrives at school or someone sees them out and about, they should say hello. It is helpful if you explain to your child that people will say hello as that's what people do, but that's okay as they can either say hello back or they can smile. Don't worry if the person then goes on to talk more, as you can try out the talking triangle strategy that we will go through in a later slide. People naturally ask questions to start conversations and find out information. Quite often adults will ask children questions to test their knowledge and they already know the answer. A question automatically puts pressure on the child as they are expected to answer. Try commenting on what the child is doing rather than asking them. So say, I can see you're drawing a picture. I like the colours you're using. Green is my favourite. Rather than, what are you drawing? This style provides opportunity for the child to comment rather than feel that they have to respond. Often the child might point to another colour when you have said your favourite, indicating their own favourite. You can then comment, oh, so red is your favourite colour. I wonder statements are great for helping you to comment rather than question. Saying, I wonder what you are drawing, provides the opportunity to respond. If they don't say anything, then that is okay. You can then guess. Oh, I think it looks like a house. At this point, they may shake or nod their head. You can carry on commenting until you know what the picture is, or you can say, I think I will wait till you've finished and then I will know what it is. Make sure you pause between comments to allow them time to think and answer. Count to 10 in your head should leave enough time. At school, it is often helpful if the child is sitting with other children for the adult to comment to the group as a whole, and often the quiet child will join in as there's no direct focus on them. Talking to the child about speech anxiety, the pep talk. Acknowledge the child or young person's fear of speaking. This is so important for the young person as they may be used to people asking them why they don't speak or feeling pressured to speak as other people just don't get it. Tell them that you know it's difficult and you know how to help them. It is helpful for the child or young person to have their difficulty acknowledged in this way rather than ignored or misinterpreted, even at a very young age. Let the child or young person know that they are not alone. It's reassuring to know that other people have had this difficulty and have got through it, and for older children that their difficulty is recognised and has a name. Talk to older children, say over about 10 years old, about phobias and explain to them that with phobias the fear is real but the threat is imaginary. Also, it is important to say that their fear will pass and it is not part of their personality. Take the pressure off talking. If the child or young person is not feeling the pressure to talk, they can relax and join in and enjoy being part of activities and events wherever they are. Reassure the child or young person that there is no rush and they can speak when they feel they are ready to. Let them know that you are there for them if they are feeling upset. Explain that talking will get easier. Let the child or young person know that although this feels incredibly hard now, it will not always be like this. It is important that the child or young person sees themselves as a person who will talk at some time in the future. Although it can sometimes feel a bit difficult for you as the adult when a child doesn't speak in school or nursery, stay calm and show the child you are not worried and are confident that they will get over their fear. Reassure them that if ever they can't answer, it's no big deal and no one will mind.
Should I answer for my child? The short answer is no. It's natural to step in when you see your child freeze, but if a child gets used to someone answering for them, they will adopt the role of silent partner whenever that person is around. One day they will answer, and it's so important to have everything in place for that moment when they are ready to speak out. A few golden rules. Do not answer for your child. If you adopt the routine that follows, your child will learn that it's not so bad to be asked a question. Everyone seems relaxed about it, whether they answer or not. They'll be far less wary of social situations in general. Do not put your child under pressure to answer. Calmly convey that it's fine if they answer and fine if they don't. You know they're trying hard and doing their best. Do not apologise for your child. They feel like they've done something wrong. If appropriate, you can always explain later that your child wasn't being rude, or share how it makes you feel that others don't see your child as they really are. Follow this routine whenever someone asks your child a question, and you'll be surprised how much easier it gets and how quickly your child succeeds in answering. It's not usually necessary to tell younger children what you're doing or why, but if they ask, or you want to prepare an older child, then you could tell them the following. This works because your child will learn, without any pressure, that questions of the person who's being asked, no one else will answer. You know they will get good at answering if they keep trying. It's not a big deal if they don't manage it. No one minds, it's still a good day. We recommend you try the following routine. Wait for a full 5 seconds. Slowly count to 5. If your child nods or shakes their head for yes, no, that's fine. Add a comment to move the conversation on. For example, yes, we came last week, didn't we? But with other sorts of questions, your child will probably find it easier to answer if you don't look at them. Fiddle with something if it helps. If a no response, make it a private conversation between you and your child. Gently repeat the question or turn it into a choice, X or Y, or rephrase it so that your child only needs to say yes or no, or nod or shake their head. Wait then for a full 5 seconds. If your child answers or gestures, smile and add a comment to move things on. Keep any acknowledgement of this great achievement for a private moment. Your child doesn't want attention drawn to their talking in public. If no response, move the conversation on without answering. For example, say to your child, "We'll have a think about that, won't we? Or tell me later." Ask the other person a question to divert attention from your child. Change the subject, say your goodbyes. More and more communication is having to take place virtually, especially during the pandemic. It can be just as challenging for someone with selective mutism to communicate virtually or using social media as it is to talk to someone face to face. This link provides some ideas on how to build up confidence to communicate virtually. The information is quite detailed, but please don't let this put you off. Try to work through one step at a time. The information and ideas can be adapted by nursery and schools to be more relevant for them. Do not worry how long this takes. Focus on what you will get out of it in the long run and take as many sessions as you need. The smaller you make the steps, the quicker you'll get there. Perseverance always pays off, and what feels so impossible to start with will suddenly seem easy as you take the plunge and face your fears in tiny, manageable steps. Don't leave too long between sessions for best results, no more than 2 or 3 days. Ideally, carry on the next day. Frequent repetition is the key to retraining your brain and switching off the automatic panic reaction you currently experience when you try to talk to people for the first time. If the steps seem too small, miss some out.
The following information is taken from the Selective Mutism resource manual. Although it is tempting to encourage a child or young person to whisper what they want to say to you when you're out and about, and you might need to find something out from them, it's actually not helpful. By turning or lowering your head so that they can whisper in your ear, it strengthens their belief that talking in public is not safe, which makes it harder to talk another time. Reassure them that it is okay to talk and that a quiet voice is fine as long as you can hear what they are saying. Give the child or young person around 5 seconds to answer if you have asked them something. If they still don't speak and you have a fair idea about what they want to say, give them an alternative. For example, do you want salt and vinegar or ready salted? And again, give them time to answer. If they still don't say anything, don't start guessing, just smile and move on. That's okay, tell me later. If you are able to, you could try moving just far enough away from the place or people that are making it difficult for the child or young person to talk to you. Say something like, "Come round the corner and tell me," so that they can talk. It can be difficult to know what to say when you meet someone and your child is unable to speak to them. The link below will take you to a handout which gives you some ideas of what to say and do when this happens. We hope this information has helped you to understand more about selective mutism and how you can start to support your child or young person to take those small steps to overcoming their phobia of talking. Here are the links we have referred to during this for you to explore further. We recommend that you and your child's school or nursery try the strategies that we have outlined for at least 3 months so that they can begin to have an impact. If you are still very concerned after having tried them, you can refer your child to speech and language therapy for further support. The referral form can be found on the East Kent Hospital's Trust website. Thank you for listening.